Hi everyone, welcome back to another session of admin training course. So in this one, I'm going to show you how validation rules work in Salesforce and why do we actually write validation rules. So let's just start with a brief introduction about validation rules, and then I'll move to the Salesforce developer org and I'll write few validation rules and I'll show you how it works. All right. So basically, our validation rules are written in Salesforce in order to validate the data. So for example, let's say while creating an account record or contact record, any kind of standard Salesforce record, or could be a record from a custom object, if you want to apply some kind of rules to make sure that user is not entering some invalid data, then you can write some validation rule and pop up error messages to users when they are actually creating the record, right? So that they would know that the data that they are filling in is not correct, so that they can actually enter the expected data and then save the data. All right. So I'm just going ahead and I'll start with a very simple validation rule. So let me go to my Salesforce developer org. So here is my org, and I'll start with so I'll go to the employee object. So here, if you want to navigate to the object manager, then you need to click on the gear icon. Once you click on the setup, you can go to object manager and find your object. That is how I have reached here. Okay. And once you're on the object, you will find an option of for validation rules at the last, and you click on that, and then you will have this option of creating a new validation rule. So here I will just give any name to the validation rule. So I would give it as salary required for active employees. You can give any name, whatever you want here. All right. Whatever makes more sense to you, you can give that name. Now here, so I have two conditions, right? First one is that if this is checked, if this is true, and if this is blank, that is when I want to throw the error, right? So that means I have to write two conditions inside the validation rule in order to throw the error. Okay. So I will just first go ahead and find these two fields in the validation rule. And because I have two conditions and both the conditions have to be true in order for the validation rule to be fired. So that is why I'm applying an and condition. Okay. So here insert field, and I will find first salary. So if salary is blank, right? So this is the function that I can apply. So let's say if salary is blank, and when do you want the error to be thrown? When the salary is blank and if active checkbox is true, right? So is employee active if this is true? So let's just go and find this field. Is employee active is equals to, sorry, true. Okay. So whenever this particular checkbox is true and salary is blank, I want to throw an error message saying that salary cannot be blank for active employee. Okay, so that whoever is creating the employee record, they will understand by seeing this error that okay, they have marked this active employee checkbox as true, but they have not provided any value in the salary, so they need to provide some value in the salary field in order to proceed. All right. And here there are two positions which actually tells you that where do you want to display the validation rule error message, and you can choose either on the field or somewhere on the page. Here it says and top of the page, but generally on the lightning record page you would see it on the bottom of the page rather than on top of the page. But if you're on classic version of Salesforce, then you would see the error message on top of the page. So for example, here I can choose field. So here it will ask you which field. So for example, I want to highlight salary field. Okay, if this is kept blank, so save this. And also this is marked as active. So let's say if your validation rule is not working, then you also need to check if it is active or not, because you can deactivate this if the validation rule is not required. Okay. So now I have this validation rule. Now let's go ahead and try to create an employee record and see how it works. So let's go to employee, and here I'll go ahead and create a new record. So here employee name. All right. And then here, okay, so here I'm keeping the salary blank, but I'm making this employee as active. Okay. And then let me try to save this. So see, the validation rule fired, right? Salary cannot be blank for active employees. And it is giving me this error here also and here also. Here it is giving me because I have, that is what I selected while creating the validation rule, right? That is the place where I wanted to show the validation rule, okay? So this is how simple it is in order to validate the data. I mean, you can provide any kind of, this basically makes sure that whatever is being entered is a valid data, which actually follows all the rules and regulations that you have for the record, so that all the data sanity can be maintained. All right. So this is one of the, and if I provide a salary here, I should be able to save the record. All right. Okay, so this is one of the examples of validation rule, and there are a lot of other examples. For example, if you simply want to apply something that you cannot keep the email field as blank, then you can write another validation rule. For example, I mean, it's not necessary that you have to write a validation rule always in a combination, right, of criteria, but it can be as simple as applying a validation rule on just one field. Email cannot be blank. Okay, so here, all I have to do is I need to find the email field, and if it is blank, this is the function, and here you need to mention the field. If the email is blank while creating the employee record, I would display a message, email cannot be blank. And that's it. Here, click on this, and I will choose the email field and save this. Let's just go ahead and create another employee record. So here I'll just give anything. And if I try to save this, look at this. Okay, email cannot be blank. So this is another example of validation rule. So basically whatever you're writing inside the formula expression, right? So you have to write the expression on which condition you want the error to be triggered. All right. So that is all you have to keep in mind. And it can be, every complex scenario cannot be achieved with validation rule. You will realize that when you actually are working on the validation rules, because you will know that everything cannot be achieved with validation rule, and you would actually maybe you would end up writing a flow or a trigger or something like that. All right. So but let me show you some other examples. For example, because there are a lot of other kind of fields, for example, pick list, but the way you actually write a validation rule for a pick list is a little different, apart from putting condition for other fields. So for example, let's say, so here itself, if I, okay, 1 second, let's say if I want to write a validation rule that if the position is developer, then salary cannot be greater than, let's say, $5,000. Okay. So this is my very simple condition, that if the position is developer and if the salary is greater than 5,000, then I want to show an error message saying that developer's salary cannot be greater than 5,000. Okay. So let's just go ahead and see how this can be achieved. Okay, so here I will again go to the validation rules, click on new, here, developer salary validation. Okay. So here, two things again, right? There are two fields which are involved, position and salary. Okay. So the first thing that I need to actually include in my formula expression is the position, if the position is developer. So again, I need to apply and, because there are two conditions on, if those two conditions meet, then only I want to fire the validation rule. So I will first search for position, insert. And as position is a pick list, I cannot directly write like this, position is equals to, no, this will not be acceptable. Your syntax, it will give you syntactical error over here. Okay. So in order to actually write a formal expression for pick list value, you have to write something like this. So is pick val. So this is for pick list value, and it takes two parameters. This function takes two parameters. The first parameter is the API name of the field. So position is the position _C is the API name of the field. And here you need to give what value. So I want the value for developer. Okay. Developer. I hope I have written it correctly. All right. So if for this pick list field, if the value is developer and salary is greater than 5,000. So what is the API name of the salary? So salary is greater than 5,000. Okay, that's it. So these are my two conditions. When these two conditions meet, I want to throw the error message. Developers salary cannot be greater than 5,000. Okay. And here I can highlight the salary field or whatever you want. And we can save this. All right, now let's just go ahead, try creating a record, and I will select the position as developer and I'll enter salary greater than 5,000 and we'll check if we are getting the error or not. Okay. So here, any employee name and position I'm selecting as developer. Salary, I'll give anything greater than 5,000. Here, okay, developer salary cannot be greater than 5,000. Okay, so if you provide anything less than 5,000, it will accept and it will allow you to save the record. Okay, and you can see if there are other validation rules which are actually falling under the criteria, that will also get triggered. So you can see that this is the other validation rule that I have written, that email cannot be left blank. Okay, so I mean, if you have multiple validation rules, then everything will be triggered when you're trying to create the record. All right, so this is I mean, these are very simple examples of writing a validation rule, but the whole purpose of writing a validation rule is to make sure that whatever user is entering in the data while creating it, to maintain the data eligibility, to make sure that everything is as per the requirement, as per the conditions and the rules that you all that you have for the data. All right, so that's it for the validation rules. If you have more questions, if you have more scenarios, please comment that under the comment section and I'll try to resolve that for you. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.